And welcome to another edition of Real Talk on 92.5 WLSD The Vault. Friday the 13th, December 13th at 10:03. And did that song get you all in the mood for the show?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. It did me too. It did me too. We're going to be diving into the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Jingle All the Way. And it's going to be a fun one. But before we get into the show, please go to all the social media pages. That is the Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, the Other People's Show. Jeremiah, David, how are you all tonight?
Doing pretty good.
Now,
very good.
Often you all tell me that you've seen the movie, but you watch it right before the show as well.
Oh yeah.
Did you do that today?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Very cool. Very cool. I watched it last... I mean, I'd seen it before, but I watched it again last Sunday.
Dude, we had it on VCR. We watched it like... I can't tell you how many times.
How many times have we lost it?
Huh?
Lost the tape.
Oh. It got lost quite a bit, but it always ended up getting found.
Let's maybe pull that.
So
We got feedback a little bit, didn't we?
Yep.
Okay, it seems better now, doesn't it? Okay.
Good deal.
Okay, sounds better. Okay, so you all had the VHS tape
Yeah.
many times
Yeah.
and had lost it and had to rebuy it or refind it.
No, just refind it.
Okay.
It basically got lost in clutter.
Yep.
We had a bunch of stuff as kids.
Okay. So this movie is basically about a father who vows to get his son a Turbo Man action figure for Christmas. However, every store is sold out, and he must travel all over town and compete with everyone else in order to find one. That's basically the summary of the movie, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And I didn't know some of this information when I did the research. Brian Levant was the director. I never really, honestly, had heard of him, but I've heard of almost every movie that he has directed.
Yeah.
The Spy Next Door with Jackie Chan. Are we there yet with what? Ice Cube,
Yeah.
Snow Dogs, Cuba Gooding Jr., The Flintstones. Didn't somebody mention the Flintstones last week? Was that somebody in here?
I can't remember.
It was the John Goodman was Fred. I think Rick
Yeah.
Moranis was Barney.
Yeah.
And
And then there was the second one, Viva Rock Vegas.
Yes.
I can't remember who played Fred, but I know.
Stephen Baldwin was
Stephen Baldwin played
Barney.
Barney, yeah.
And then it had that...
Honestly, I liked him better as Barney. He had the character down better, I think, especially with the laugh.
he did have a good laugh, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it had Gazoo. Didn't the second Viva Rock Vegas have Gazoo? Was that little
Yeah.
Gazoo?
Yep.
I thought that was a pretty good one, too. Beethoven. I've heard of Beethoven about, the dog.
Yeah.
And Problem Child, too. So this guy has actually directed a lot of pretty... I don't know if I would... Yeah, I guess you could say iconic movies. I would say most people would heard of at least 2 or 3 of these movies.
They're definitely all pop culture icons. So it's like, yeah, I've not watched Problem Child 2 myself, but I know.
You've heard of it, though.
Yeah.
Have you seen the first one?
No, I've not seen it.
Really?
No.
Have you, Jeremiah?
Oh no.
But you've heard of it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so that might be one to do then. Problem Child. Because let's try something for a second. I hear a little bit of feedback. Let's try this in the middle. Maybe try sharing that one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, all right, there we go. I think that sounds good. So yeah, we can do maybe in the new year Problem Child, because that's one I've not watched in a long time. Problem Child 2, honestly, I don't think I've ever watched it. I've heard of it, and it was a successful movie as far as financially as the first one, but I've never seen it. But anyway, that director, he's directed quite a few movies, and this has a pretty good cast. You've got Arnold as Howard, Sinbad as Myron, Phil Hartman as Ted, Rita Wilson, who is Tom Hanks' wife in real life, plays Liz. Jake Lloyd played Jamie, and he also was Anakin and
Star Wars.
Yep, and then we have Jim Belushi makes a small appearance as the mall Santa, and you've got Vern Troyer as one of the little short Santas.
Yeah.
And those that might not know his name, he's Mini-Me.
Yeah.
So the facts. Now, I don't know if you all knew this, and after reading it, I was a kid when this Cabbage Patch thing happened, but this story, it was written by about, the writer had learned or kind of remembers this frenzy about these Cabbage Patch dolls that went into. And you can go back and look it up on YouTube, obviously. But the story is based on those 80s shopping frenzy over the Cabbage Patch dolls, but ended up mimicking the Tickle Me Elmo craze of 1996, which was around the time this movie actually came out. So I remember vaguely the Cabbage Patch, but I do remember everyone wanted a Tickle Me Elmo, and you would see commercials about it all the time, and everyone would have one. And a lot of the younger kids, and that's the same for this movie, except instead of a Cabbage Patch or Tickle Me Elmo, it is a Turbo Man, which they actually did make a Turbo Man action figure. They just didn't mass produce them like some of the other toy lines.
Yeah, more like a prop thing, or did they actually?
They put out I forget the exact amount, but I think they made about 200,000 of them. Because one of the criticisms of this film that people said, or the critics said, oh well, they just made this movie to sell Turbo Man toys. But in all honesty, as a kid, I was 16 when this came out. I never saw a Turbo Man toy out on the shelves. Not here anyway.
If you ask me, I think they would have had a better market doing action figures of characters from the show.
Yeah, I think so too. But when they put that criticism out there, I forget who it was, but it could have been Arnold himself. They were like, well, a lot of other big things were going on at the time, but we didn't have nearly as many toys out as for example, Batman Returns, things like that, the Nightmare Before Christmas. So that I don't really think this movie was made to sell Turbo Man, but it could have been, and they should have made. I think if they should have made more Turbo Men, because I think a lot of kids would have wanted that. And just imagine if you have a Turbo Man action figure now that you've never even opened, and it's still in the
They should have tried to put it out a little bit more than what they did.
Yeah, so 200,000 in America's it's not that many. If you think about it,
not at all.
Could have even had a second movie.
And that's something, and I didn't put it on. I don't think I put it on the sheet, but there's a scene, and I didn't watch it at the end of. I watched it on Hulu, but I think on the DVD and probably the VHS, there's an extra scene at the very end of it, which sets up the movie in case they wanted to make a sequel.
Oh yeah, actually you actually see it at the end on Hulu.
Do you?
Yeah, you just got to roll through all the.
Is it after all the credits? I'll have to rewatch it tonight.
Yeah,
and make you do that.
But so it does set it up for a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I kind of wish they would have made a sequel, if
They may still do it, man. Christmas movies are making a comeback.
That's true, and they can do de-aging, I guess.
Yeah.
But the filming took place, a lot of it, in the Minnesota Mall of America for 5 weeks in April of 1996. And I also read that's one of the reasons, the outdoor scene in the third act when he actually is Turbo Man.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look. I mean, they have Christmas stuff up, but the weather doesn't look Christmassy much at all if you think about it. Everybody's got a coat on and stuff, but this was actually filmed in April, so it wasn't really cold out at all. And as we mentioned earlier, Vern Troyer he plays Mini-Me in Austin Powers. He's the shortest Santa that actually gets punched across the room.
Yeah.
So
there's another one, the guy that plays the elf alongside the Santa, he's actually, another movie I know him in is Employee of the Month.
And he's also in Bad Santa.
Yeah. And
he's also in Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, that is right.
I'd forgotten about him until I saw him, and his name is Tony Cox. And he's funny in Bad Santa, too. He's pretty funny in every movie that I've seen him in. But he doesn't talk much. Does he have any lines in this one? Just one or two lines?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
He says, a few things, because, he's with, all the other Santas.
Isn't he the one that goes and gets the faulty Turbo Man?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it, speaks Spanish when you pull the cord or push the button?
Yeah.
And then the arms or something falls off?
Yeah.
So, yeah. This is Turbo Man. Turbo Man, and I'd forgotten about this part of the movie because I wrote the sheet before I rewatched the movie. It said Turbo Man TV show that Jamie's watching at the beginning of the movie is a parody of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, it's funny that it's actually really funny because growing up,
Hey,
me and
Roy.
Jeremiah used to make fun of how it used that we thought it looked like Power Rangers.
Yeah, and see when I don't specifically remember that part, but now watching it easily, you can easily say, yeah, this is definitely a spoof of
Yeah.
Power. There's no denying it at all. And Turbo Man's red suit was modeled after the DC comic superhero The Flash.
And you can definitely see that.
Yes. Now to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I didn't think of that before I did the
I-
research on it. Like I've only seen it twice before, but I really didn't think of it. But once I saw this, I was like, yeah, I can easily see that.
I really never took enough interest because, like, where, my thing about Jingle All the Way is, like, I liked just Howard's journey itself.
Yeah.
I wasn't never really focused on Turbo Man myself.
Me either. Not really.
I always felt a sense of familiarity with the suit, and I'm just like, but, I never thought to just like look into it, but no, like whenever I came in and read that, I was like, wow, that's definitely. I was like, definitely looks like Flash's suit.
And to be honest with you, we touched upon it last week. I knew what Flash's suit looked like, but I was never really a big comic,
Yeah.
Comic person. I had a couple of comics, but I didn't ever really read them that much, and it was doing something funny with the volume there. So, the budget of this movie was $60 million, and 20 million of those were paid to Arnold himself
Jeez.
to be in this movie. The movie made $60.5 million in the U.S. box office and $129.8 million worldwide. So the studio usually gets half. So they made a little bit of profit, but with the VHS and DVD sales and now streaming and stuff, they've made their money back, over the years. And I think this would have been a good, and like Jeremiah said, they still could make it. But I think when Arnold first came back after The Governor, he should have done maybe one or two action movies, and then maybe tried to do this as his third movie. Released it around, maybe like the 20-year. It could have come out maybe 2016, because that would have been 20 years since this one. Yeah. People on Rotten Tomatoes didn't like it, 20% positive, and the audience score was a little bit lower than I expected at 41%. And IMDb is almost right down the middle at 5.7. So basically, we gave the plot, but within the plot, there's another little side plot where, there's two. I would say, what would you say? 3 side plots. You've got one with Arnold trying to find Turbo Man so he doesn't disappoint his son, and then you've got where who is it? Ted.
Oh yeah.
Is trying to hit on Howard's wife, Liz.
Yeah, that whole.
And then you've got Howard facing off against Myron, trying to get Turbo Man throughout the city.
Or you could say the cop.
The cop. So there's 4. Yeah, that's true. That's a good one. So there's 4 kind of plots that kind of drive the movie.
Because literally any situation he catches himself in, he always runs into that cop.
That same cop.
Yeah.
And it's at least 3 or 4 different times, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like I looked this up a long time ago, but I feel like that cop had some sort of significance as a person. And his voice, I was watching the movie earlier, and his voice sounds super familiar. Might have to look this up again, because...
And it could have been. Now, I did have a DVD copy of this at one time, and I think I still have it. And I should have watched that or some of the special features, which is one of the reasons I really like DVD.
Yeah.
But I just happened to watch it on Hulu. But so out of those plots there, what was the one that drew you all in? So you said the way Howard was trying to get around the city, kind of in his ongoing combativeness with Myron. Or is that what you would think?
Yeah.
Is that the one that you mainly? Because I mean,
Yeah, that was the one I mostly identified with, because like, really the moment he wakes up the next morning, because it really don't take long to the movie. He's out trying to find that doll, and he sees Myron at the store.
and it's pretty early on. It's like the
Yeah.
first. It's pretty. It's
The first real sequence, you could say.
yeah. And this borrowed. If you think about it, in the '90s there was a lot of movies where, like, the father was busy at work, and then he like neglected, the child somehow. Like Liar Liar is that
Or
same
just
premise.
the whole family.
The
in
family,
general, yeah.
like his
Which-
intentions are good, but he get
Yeah.
caught up at work, and then like he doesn't make the baseball game or doesn't make.
Because he makes work his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the, and it was funny because Howard's job is, what is he, a mattress salesman? Something like that?
So if it wasn't that, I think he sells like bed sheet sets.
Okay, because he always
Like
says everyone's
comforters,
their number one customer.
Number one customer, yeah.
And I always find it funny, like when they put someone like Arnold in, and then they, you're used to seeing him in like the Terminator movies or Commando or Predator,
Yeah.
and then he's a bed sheet salesman.
So that cop, he is. Why we haven't mentioned him more? It's Robert Conrad.
Okay.
That's actually a really big name in television.
Yeah, I honestly didn't realize that's who that was. To be honest with you,
Yeah, see here.
I did not
I know I've
realize.
seen some TV with him.
Now I knew
Their
him.
grandparents growing up.
I'd seen more pictures of him when he was younger. To be honest, well, I mean, he's not that old. I mean, he's not old in this, but he's older.
Yeah.
But I've seen him mainly when he was younger. To be honest with you, but he makes. I mean, the Wild Wild West, the Duke, a man called Sloan, Baba Black Sheep. I mean, he was a American and film television singer and stuntman.
Yeah.
So that was cool that he had a cameo in there.
He's got a.
Now he only
really
did
rich
two other.
history in
He only did
film.
three other things after Jingle All the Way. So
But
interesting
he does have pretty rich, like,
filmography.
yeah. It's,
Yeah, he definitely does. Now, what did you think about these characters? Now that we mentioned,
I like the characters because there's they all have the essence of it's the holidays, and this is serious because our kid really wants this and we can't fail this time.
yes,
But which it still had the really good jokes, but then they had their moments where there's like we're just trying to do our best.
Yeah.
Like the that scene in the diner.
yeah,
After they had their little fight at the malls and stuff like that, trying to fight each other for a Turbo Man doll.
yeah. They had that nice little heart-to-heart moment.
Yep.
And the same thing, I think, I think they originally, I can't remember who they didn't originally have Sinbad as Myron.
If I have to say so myself, I'd say that's probably what killed the ratings on this movie the most. I like Sinbad.
Yeah.
But I know from like what I've read, what I've heard, he wasn't a very popular comedian.
No, he, see, there was a thing that had went around a while back when was it Sinbad and Kazam? Was that the thing? Shazam.
Yeah.
And,
What do you think about that?
see, I know Shaq was in a movie called Kazam.
Yes.
Now, and I've looked up in every bit of information I've ever tried to find on Sinbad, I've never been able to find anything that would confirm that he was actually in a movie called Shazam.
What if I told you I've seen that movie?
Then I would believe you.
Like I have. I remember plain as day watching it as a kid.
Have you ever been able to find it?
No.
I think that
And it blows my mind to this day because even Sinbad's like, y'all are crazy. like I'm about to go crazy and go on a hunting spree and start beating y'all up and stuff, because like it did not happen, and to this day I will hold my ground. I watched that movie numerous times as a kid.
It was a '90s movie, wasn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, I believe you. I believe you 100%. I've never seen it, and I wish I could find it just to see it. But when I used to drive back, I used to work at I was projectionist at a theater in DC, and on my way home, I would always drive by this one church. And then one night I drove by. It was actually the afternoon. There was a big long banner, bigger than the banner back here. It was like as big as that wall. It was on the whole back of the church, and it said, Sinbad, had the date at 7 p.m. And this Sinbad was performing over there because he was, I don't know if he was always a clean comedian, but I know that at this part at least he was. But I didn't get to go. Well, I didn't not get to go. I just didn't go, which kind of saddens me to this very day, to be honest with you.
No, I would have been too, because like I think Sinbad's pretty funny.
Yeah, I watched some of his stuff the other day, and I think in like recent years, I think he had a stroke a couple of years back, and he's like having to relearn to walk and things like that.
Yeah.
But one reason they chose Sinbad for this movie was because he seemed kind of like an equal in stature to Arnold.
Yeah.
And you can see that on camera, and I think they have a pretty decent, like they're believable that they would kind of butt heads in real life, not real life, but in this universe of this movie, fighting over two dads, fighting over the toy that no one can get. And I don't know who else I would think to play Myron, though, if I had to think right away. They did have someone else in mind, and I think they had someone shorter due to the fact that, Arnold and Danny DeVito did Twins together.
Yeah.
But the producers were like, well, the audience has already seen that. Let's give them something else. And I did see this movie in theaters. And from what I recall, I thought the audience seemed to like it. Maybe I was wrong, but no one seemed to grumble or anything on the way out. And it was a pretty packed. I mean, it wasn't. I went in the afternoon show, and it wasn't sold out, but there were probably half full, So, but yeah. So
I our area too, though.
True. I do think everybody does a good job, though.
Yeah, I mean, I do too.
Phil Hartman, he's kind of like a slime ball. But all the neighborhood women love him.
Sleazebag, yeah.
He's a sleazebag. But he's a sleaze...
Man's just got divorced from his wife, and he's like, yeah, ladies, that's right, I'm nice, but I'm going to go after this married woman.
Yeah.
Like, dude, chill.
And then he gets, he gets a little bit more aggressive as the movie goes on.
Yeah, to the point where she freaking has to take a thermos full of warm eggnog to his face.
Yes, that's what it is. So he pretty much gets what he deserves. And Howard also has the nice line of, he says, like, put down the cookie. Is that what he says?
Put the cookie down!
Yeah, that's a good impersonation. That's a, and that when Arnold said that, he knew that was going to be like a catchphrase for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It had to have been.
I mean, just like, get to the job.
Yes.
It's not a doom.
So, yeah, I think Jake Lloyd as Jamie, he does a good job. And he's had some mental health problems later on in his life.
Really?
Due to Star Wars Episode 1.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of children made fun of him, and he couldn't go back to school again. And he had to end up being in a psychiatric...
I guess where he played like a orphan kid.
Yeah. And they bullied him to the point where I think
Wow.
he had to go into a psychiatric ward.
That's wild.
So this was his first movie, though. I think he had done one commercial, and then this was his first movie.
Jingle All the Way, and then he did Star Wars.
Yep. Yep, and then he did some voices for, the games of Star Wars, and I think he reprised Anakin in, like, a newer version of the Disney's, cinematic, the universe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which particular show, though.
Maybe Clone Wars.
Maybe. I haven't watched any of those, to be honest with you.
I remember when Clone Wars first came out, I'm pretty sure it was still Hayden Christensen.
Okay. Because I know he
But
was
now,
in.
I know they've just released recently, like past couple years or something, released some new Clone Wars.
Well, I saw they put out a trailer for one, and like Jude Law was in it. He was like a Jedi or something.
I honestly fell off with Star Wars and Clone Wars, basically after it got repetitive with Ahsoka and Anakin. Chasing I can't remember what her name is to this day.
What, Natalie Portman? Her character? Is it Queen Amidala? Or are you talking about later Star Wars?
No, the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars.
Yeah, the cartoon.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
I haven't watched.
That's where we first got our introduction to Ahsoka.
Okay.
From Mandalorian.
Right. See, I haven't watched
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
Ahsoka is Anakin's Padawan.
Okay. I haven't watched. I guess the last one I really watched was The Last Jedi. I didn't watch
Last
the one.
Jedi?
Yeah.
You see, yeah, I mean, I've watched. I haven't watched the little movie like the ones like about Han Solo and Rogue One.
Oh yeah, I did watch.
Whatever.
I
Like,
did
you know-
watch
you know the ones
those.
that are like.
I watched Solo
off-road.
and I did watch Rogue One.
Yeah, see, I haven't watched those. I've watched the ones that just like follows the storyline.
Okay. So, how do we get into that?
We was talking about
It was,
Jamie.
oh yeah. I was like, that was a.
Both problems because kids making fun of him for his part in Star Wars.
Yes.
And
And then you've got Jim Belushi pops up a little bit as the mall Santa, and that's like one of the most random cameos ever.
yeah.
Like especially at the time because he was in quite a few movies. I don't know if he was. I don't think he had started doing that show according to Jim at that point, but he had done like Curly Sue.
You know, it's funny because I always thought he looked a little bit like Bill Murray.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see that.
In this movie. Like in the Santa suit.
Yeah.
You see him. He takes it off like a little bit, and he kind of looks a little bit like Bill Murray.
Because he's only in the movie, what, 5 minutes maybe?
Yeah, 5
Just
10
one-
minutes.
pretty
Just
much
for
that
them-
one sequence.
For like whenever he sees them at the mall, and for whenever they go.
The
to
Santa Con.
warehouse. Yeah.
So, did you have a favorite scene or least favorite scene in
I
this
had
movie?
3 favorite scenes.
Okay, what are
in fact.
those?
The first one is whenever he actually gets in a fight with that kid over that bouncy ball to win the Turbo Man doll,
Oh yeah,
and
That's a good
he
one.
gets run through the ringer, and at the end they get beat on by all the mothers.
that's a good one because he says, "I'm not a pervert."
I'm not a pervert, lady. Yeah. Then the second one is whenever him and Myron are fighting, and he takes the RC car away from that kid and trips up Myron with
That's
the
a good
RC
one.
car.
That's a good one.
And then the last one's whenever he's flying the suit and he flies into the wall.
That's
And
a good
then-
one,
and
too.
and then right after that, whenever he just flies right by the family's table to
Yeah.
their home, they're just like, "What? What just happened?"
Now, I do like part of the Turbo Man. Like, I know it's silly, but when he's first learning, when he first gets in the Turbo Man suit and starts taking off, but he starts like flying out of control all over town.
Yeah.
That made me laugh for some reason. I just like watching it again made me laugh.
Yeah, basically just that whole sequence of him.
Because he's yelling the whole
learning to
time
fly,
too.
yeah.
And then there was another part where, well, for one, Sinbad just dressed in the villain's costume. That costume was ridiculous. They had that big head, and then
Yeah,
Jamie kicks him or punches him in the crotch, I think.
Kicks him. Gets a good one on him.
And usually that kind of thing doesn't make me laugh, but in this movie it did.
You know, honestly, I'm surprised that didn't make him like crap on himself because that there's that delicate spot in between you
Yeah.
know your bits that if it gets hit hard enough, it will cause you to release your bowels.
And I'd wondered if that was a conversation they had. Should we make this happen, or at least the sound effect?
You know, it would have been great.
And it
would've
would have
been great.
fit. It really kind of would have fit in with this movie, I think. Don't you?
Yeah, but you know they whenever he gets kicked, though, they cut to like him going cross-eyed and like, oh.
Yeah, the
So
expression.
they gave the essence that he just made really good connection.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do think that this movie is rated PG. I do think this is a PG movie, isn't
Yeah,
it?
because I think if you go back and count, there's probably maybe 5 cuss words.
Yeah, not many. There was one cuss word that they used, and it was the S word, and I was surprised it was used when it was, because it wasn't in a necessary scene. Like it wasn't. I can't recall where it was, but I thought why did they put that in there? Because there were several other places where it would have been quote more appropriate, but they just threw it in there, and I was like, why did they do that? And I like the whole scene where he goes in and he first, he thinks he's going to get the Turbo Man. He goes and there's all these Santas in the warehouse.
Oh, yeah.
And then, they give Howard the doll, and then Howard pulls the cord and it doesn't speak English.
Yeah, he pushes the button.
Yeah, the button, and then, he takes it out and the arm falls off, and that's kind of what sets up him getting into this big, fights with all these Santa Claus.
Yeah, because they're trying to charge him quadruple price for this thing.
Yeah, they want to charge him like $300, don't they?
Yeah.
And how much would you say a Turbo Man doll is? Like $50, $60 maybe?
Let's see here, 96. I would imagine that doll would have been probably $60.
Yeah, so they're charging it,
quadruple September price, like Jesus.
And then that kind of sets off the
highway robbery.
Yeah,
at its finest.
Yeah, exactly. What about the score and the music to this movie?
I loved it. Whenever you opened us up with the song, I was just like, yeah.
It put me honestly right in the mood for.
That's my holiday vibe. Is the music. I like that jazzy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge jazz man, though.
I like jazz too. I really do. I think jazz is very underrated.
Extremely underrated.
Because who really listens to jazz that I know, or other than you now? Not many people.
And it blows my mind at the amount of people that likes Mac Miller but don't know his alter ego, Lusting.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's not well known.
Plays jazz.
Very cool.
He literally talks about it on Ridiculousness, that show with Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
He talks about it. He talks about it on the show. Like, I don't know, I didn't know about it until I'd heard about it on the show. And
right.
I go back and I listen to it. Like, man, plays some nice jazz.
Very cool.
I'd have to look back and try to remember because it's something Lovestein.
Okay. Now, what about originality? Was this movie very original in your opinion?
For a movie, yes, but it was a very stereotypical movie. It hit that. I work to provide, and I do, I go the extra mile to provide extra, but I ignore my family as that's 90s stereotypical.
Yeah.
Working for, and you even mentioned at the beginning, he getting off the phone with Liz. He's like, remember Liz, you're my number one customer.
Yeah.
And even he has to catch himself, and it was such a stereotypical thing for the 90s.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
And then the office jobs.
Right. And just getting caught up in that. So what about the poster? I like the poster to Jingle All the Way. I think it fits them. There's a couple different ones, but I think the one that I tagged us in was I always try to find the theatrical poster, and sometimes there's a couple different ones. But as this one, but I like it. It had the, it's got like Arnold, lunging for the Turbo Man. You've got Myron underneath, and then you've got, lights around the side of the poster. And then there's another one where Arnold has his hands up like, whoa! And then you've got Jamie looking up at him, and then a Christmas tree in the back. But I like the one where he's jumping forward. I think that really gives, it's kind of silly, but it's also fun.
It almost feels like the part where he's jumping for the bouncing balls.
Yes. And both him and Sinbad have a ridiculous look on their face. They're both like, oh.
Yeah.
And so that 2 dads, 1 toy, no prisoners. That's the tagline. So I think they did a good job on that.
Oh yeah.
So, would you or would you not recommend Jingle All the Way?
Look, I would absolutely recommend a family sit and watch this movie together. You know, just maybe wouldn't sit and watch it with like a 4 or 5-year-old, but if like like 8 years old on up. Yeah, see what your kids watch this movie, have a good laugh.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this would be, a pretty good family. Like if I had a family, if I weren't an orphan out on the street and I had a family of my own, I would sit them down and be like, "You want to watch this? This is a good family movie. It's got a couple of cuss words, but nothing all that bad."
I mean, yeah, if you feel like, which I don't think it would for most people. If you feel like Christmas Story's getting a little stale, this right here is your modern day Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Which actually, speaking of, there's actually a sequel to Christmas Story now, an official sequel.
I saw. Have you watched
Christmas
it?
Story Christmas? Yeah, it came out last Christmas.
That's what I thought. You watched it?
Yes, and I've already watched it again this year, and it did the same thing that it did to me last year.
Really?
It will make you bawl like a freaking baby.
Really?
Absolutely.
Much. I'll have to watch it then. I haven't watched it. I mean, I've watched the original one, but not the sequel to that one.
Sequel probably made me cry about 4 or 5 times during the entire movie.
Wow, so it's sentimental.
It's super sentimental.
Did you expect that going into it? You probably didn't expect it to be like that, did you?
No.
Wow.
Because like immediately, like basically right off the rip, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
And it has the original cast, doesn't it?
Yes, Ralph. Like, Ralphie's married now, but
Right.
it's got Ralphie and his mom and his brother.
Because his father's passed
Randy.
away in real life, or the guy had passed away in real life that played his dad, hadn't he? I thought so.
So you can imagine where that's going.
Yeah, and they use it in the movie.
Right off the rip.
Wow, I can see
the
how
beginning.
I could see how that would hit in the feels right there. Then
Yeah, right there. First time. That's the first time it'll hit you, and then like it has those moments like, especially
Lana.
whenever Christmas comes around in the movie. Oh, that one.
We've had quite a few people saying hello tonight. I think I missed Kelsey, so hello Kelsey, hello Lana.
Hello, everybody.
And also, I would recommend this movie for the reasons David said. I think it's a modern day classic. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it the very first time and the second time, and I think this was the third time I'd seen it. And I enjoyed it more now than I ever had before.
Yeah.
And I think it should be something like a Christmas tradition every Christmas holiday.
Really, like Christmas Story.
Watch Jingle All the Way.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely would say that we have Christmas coming up in about 12 days.
Yep.
So you want to send a hello, not hello, but a very Merry Christmas wish to everyone out there listening on 92.5 WLSD, to Real Talk and the Other People's Show on Friday nights. A very Merry Christmas from myself,
and a happy
Adam.
holidays.
Yes. So you going to stick around and join for the Other People's Show?
Yeah.
All right, guys and girls, we will be back in just a moment. Have a good night.